former legislator. We have, Pastor Rod, how do we even begin to describe former Mr. Pastor Chaplain of the city? All here for Steve Shuey, which is pretty exciting. So again, that'll be the second agenda item. So. And the rules are, and this really came out of Nancy Lucan's administration. So sorry if you don't like it, but once you're in the room, you can't leave until the end of the meeting. That was something really important to her. I've kind of just gone along with it. So sorry, you can't leave. No, but when you get up tastefully. When you all walk out on us. So looks like 1 minute, and then we'll get started.
$20 if you drink it. Do you have a hepatitis shot?
Tuesday, September 7th, 2nd. I knew it in my brain. September 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Eden Prairie City Council is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you with school-aged children and/or grandchildren, you know that today is a pretty exciting day for most public school kids, that they started school today in our district and the districts around us. This first meeting of September, in a sense, also starts us off in a way on some type of a calendar, not calendar year, but a new school year. So it's pretty exciting. We've come off a summer schedule where we had one meeting a month, and now we'll go back to our regular 2 meetings. It's customary during this time for me to read an open podium invitation. Open podium is an opportunity for Eden Prairie residents to address the City Council on issues related to Eden Prairie city government prior to each council meeting, and these regular council meetings typically occur on the first and third Tuesday of each month. Open podiums occur from 6:30 to 6:55 here in the council chamber. If you wish to speak at open podium, please do contact the city manager's office at 952-949-8412 by noon of the meeting date with your name, your phone number, and subject matter so we can be better prepared for you. Open podium is not recorded or televised. If you have questions about open podium, please do contact the city manager's office. So prior to our regular council meeting, which will take place in just a few moments, we are going to go out of our regular council meeting into an HRA, Housing Redevelopment Authority meeting. Some cities actually have HRAs that are non-council members appointed, other groups. We, in Eden Prairie, our council is the HRA body. So I'm going to call the HRA meeting to order. And the first order, I don't know if I need to gavel that, I don't think so. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of tonight's HRA meeting. To approve the minutes of the HR meeting, last one we had, held back on December 3rd, 2024. Council, any items to question about those minutes or find out more about, or are you okay making a motion to approve them? I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the HRA minutes from December 3rd, 2024.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose. Second order of business then, and we're going to be doing 2 things this evening related to levy. and that is in September. Statutory state law says that councils and commissions and elected bodies that actually have taxing authority are to set a maximum of what they could levy, and then we can go below that when we actually set the levy up in December. We typically don't. We usually stay to what we set tonight, but tonight we're setting the ceiling, and we have to set the HRA levy as well tonight. That's this item of business. So, Mr. Getchell, I'll turn it over to you. I think I probably stole your thunder, but go ahead.
That's okay. That's correct. The action tonight from the HRA perspective is to set that maximum levy. As you know, it's been customary for the HRA to have your levy be tied to staff costs related to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. As we say, each and every year, we have many different sources of funds for actual housing projects. And actually, we could add that we have at least 2 new sources of funds that we'll cover at future council meetings and at our December levy adoption. But in this case, the proposed levy for 2026, or that ceiling levy, is $230,000. The simple action for you tonight is to pass a resolution to set that levy at $230,000, and the mayor covered that this is a maximum levy that you can adjust between now and the end of the year. But the anticipation is that your next HRA meeting would be in December, where you would finalize this levy.
So, Mr. Getchell, this has been creeping up. It's not been moving very quickly. We have former Mayor Nancy Lukens in the audience, and Nancy and I believe we were part of the council that first set $200,000, and it was $200,000 for over a decade, and it was 210 and 220. Just is not moving. My only question, and I'm not looking for it to be a levy increase tonight. We do have other sources. That being said, with the federal government making some, I don't know if you want to call them threats about cuts to CDBG funding, and any other federal monies that might be coming to us are getting scarce. So is that making us rethink it all? It's too late tonight. I'm okay setting the 230, but are we looking at the possibility we may want to look at even other sources of income if we no longer have access to federal funds?
Yeah, good question. Not with the levy, to answer your question there. I think this was a question you asked at the last council meeting, and we don't anticipate not receiving our community development block grant funding. But if we did, we have the new regional sales tax funding. And that is another stream of money that if we needed to find a source of revenue that would cover lost federal dollars, it would be that. You could use the levy, but we would not recommend that this year.
And the tax, the state tax, or the income, the sales tax, we'd have to go back through the legislature.
No, this is the state regional sales tax
Oh, that we
that
get
had
the
already been
portion of. Got
adopted,
it.
that we
Yep,
get a
yep.
portion of for
Got it.
housing.
We
Yeah.
can use that for this
Yeah.
if we needed to.
Yeah.
Okay. Council, any other questions you have? Then I would entertain a motion then to adopt this resolution.
Move to adopt a resolution approving the proposed 2026 property tax levy to be $230,000 and accepting the proposed 2026 budget of $230,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Motion to adjourn from someone.
Move to adjourn the HRA meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The HRA meeting is adjourned. And anytime we have high school kids in the audience, they always go, yes, this is a short meeting. I'm like, no, that was the HRA meeting within the city council. Now we move back into the city council meeting. And Mr. Getchell, exciting evening, both a really great donation and then also a proclamation. So I'll turn it back to you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. We are very excited to have a donation that we are going to accept from the Hopkins VFW Post 425. And I would like to turn things over to our Park and Recreation Director, Amy Markle.
Yeah, thank you, City Manager Getchell. Mayor and council, we have several guests here tonight from the Hopkins VFW Post 425. We have Commander Lonnie Duff and Post Adjutant Martin Adams, and they'll be here to say a few words, but we are very grateful for their donation of $2,500. That's going to be set towards our natural resource management. And it's a wonderful example of an organization that has really shown up to help with resource management, education, and raising important funds that will help our tax dollars go farther in our stewardship work in managing our precious natural resources. The funds will be specifically utilized for the continued development of a tool library that we are starting to build in our natural resource department. And it will include gloves, safety glasses, and other similar supplies. And in these efforts, staff and volunteers will be able to safely address invasive species management, the replanting of native species, and helping to bring the health of the forest back to our conservation areas. So we are thrilled to host the VFW Post on September 6th at Birch Island Woods Conservation Area for their National Day of Service. And they chose to do a buckthorn pull with our Eden Prairie staff and Friends of Eden Prairie Parks. So we just like to say thank you to their dedication to the stewardship of these natural resource areas, and we're appreciative of all their efforts and their kind donation. If they'd like to come forward and say a few words, please do so.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for having us. It's our pleasure to be here. The Hopkins VFW has been around since 1920, so over 100 years. Our members are made up of those or a community that have served in uniform, specifically overseas during times of hostility. That sense of service that we caused us to join in the first place, or maybe get drafted in certain situations, but that sense of service carried on when we took off the uniform of our nation. And our national motto right now is still serving. And so this is one of the ways that we can do that. Right now, financially, our members are declining, as a lot of service organizations are, but we do have the resources to contribute to the local community, and we're proud to do so. And thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Commander Duff and Post Adjutant Adams. Appreciate you being here. And your organization gives to a lot of great causes around the whole area. And I know that several Eden Prairie organizations have already received the Crime Fund, the Historical Society. You just have been very generous. So we are deeply appreciative. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do you want pictures, or do you want, yes? And Tommy and anybody else that's here with the VFW, come on up.
He's gonna take it. He's going first.
Oh, we would be in a long time. All right. So Mr. Getchell and I had chatted about this. I think I can just maybe go ahead and call Mayor Nancy Terlukens up. And by the way, once elected a mayor, you are called mayor for the rest of your life, as council members are. So Mayor Lukens, if you would, I guess, come up first, would you think? And then call Steve up, and then we'll bring everyone up.
Are you reading the resolution, Ron?
Oh, well, you know, I probably need to read it first. You want to maybe bring Steve up and stand there, and I'll read it? Yeah. And then we'll have them talk, and then we'll maybe do a motion. Is that fine?
Previous previous one.
Oh, would you guys just stand there for a second?
Sure.
I'm not usually making so many mistakes, and you might be making me nervous. I'm not sure, but we need a motion. We need a motion to accept the VFW contribution.
Okay.
So just stand there and smile. Go ahead. If somebody would make the motion.
Move to adopt the resolution accepting the donation of $2,500 from the Hopkins VFW for natural resource management efforts of our conservation area and parks.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm assuming no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Thank you again so much. Now, back to you all. All right, so Nancy, I believe you had some, oh wait, I'm going to read the proclamation first, and I think you've got some comments.
That'd be great.
Proclamation, City of Eden Prairie, Hennepin County, Minnesota, Steve Shuey Day. Whereas, now I've got 7 or 8 whereas statements here. Steve Shuey enthusiastically volunteered to be the CEO and publisher of the Eden Prairie Local News 5 years ago and has served in that position ever since. And whereas during his tenure, Steve has built up the Eden Prairie Local News website to nearly 200,000 hits a month and almost 4,000 subscribers. And whereas Steve has led a team of primarily volunteers to build an organization that is nationally recognized for excellence, and whereas Steve has fostered many donations and grants, allowing the Eden Prairie Local News to employ 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees to cover topics important to the community, and where Steve has invested time networking with others in the process of building similar online news stations in communities both nearby and nationally, and where Steve initiated the idea of the Eden Prairie Local News hosting a public meeting on artificial intelligence before it was widely discussed, and where Steve led the Eden Prairie Local News Voter Guide Project, a hard copy publication delivered to all Eden Prairie residents, enabling voters to make informed decisions in local elections. And whereas during his time, Steve has led the Eden Prairie Local News forward in its mission to create a strong community through informed civic participation. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Eden Prairie City Council proclaims Tuesday, today, September 2nd, 2025, as Steve Shuey Day in the city of Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Runaway Case Mayor Kathy Nelson, Mark Freiberg, PG Narayan, Lisa Toomey.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
So Nancy, I'm going to come around with this, but you go ahead and make your statements,
Okay.
and I'll just
Sure,
stand there
sure.
until you're done.
I just want to say a few words, Mayor and City Council. We all know that by definition, volunteers do not get paid, not because they're worthless, but because they are priceless. And Steve Shuey is a stellar example of a volunteer who is truly priceless. When Eden Prairie Local News was looking for a new leader, we were an under-resourced organization. Steve jumped in with both feet, enthusiastically and passionately performed an unpaid job as CEO publisher of the Eden Prairie Local News. He gave us his heart, his head, and his energies. He didn't have a background in journalism, but he knew the value of nonpartisan, hyperlocal news. Steve quickly established relationships with community organizations, learned from other news organizations around the country, and contributed countless hours to making Eden Prairie Local News better. He has been a leader regionally, and EPLN has been a model for promoting hyper-local news in other communities. I have personally been involved in many, many volunteer organizations. I have never known a volunteer who lived and breathed the mission of the organization as much as you have, Steve. It's been my honor and the honor of a lot of us from Eden Prairie Local News to work with him. He's been a great role model, and we would not be where we are today without you. Thank you for making September 2nd, Steve Shuey Day. You deserve it, Steve.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something?
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, over there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to come up? Come on up with your time, whatever.
Yes, come up, please.
Might have to back up
You
a
get on
little.
one side of him. Oh, wait, but we want. Okay.
Oh, okay. Got it. Everyone else get in?
Dean,
Everyone to get in, we'll get
Kelly,
that picture. You might even get out on the local news.
There's a possibility of that. I don't control the editorial. It should be.
Jennifer, Brad, where's Brad, David? Everybody who's been involved with us, please.
You got your friend.
All
You
right.
need a wide angle lens for all the people that are impressed with you.
Absolutely. Any council that wants to go. Okay.
So I'm afraid I may need a new hat because my head's swelling from this.
If you want to go back and sit down, Steve will then
And then
say
do I
something.
talk to the mic?
Council.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Is that okay?
Thanks. Thank you.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just a brief correction. I have not been the publisher for 5 years.
Almost.
Jennifer Loon preceded me. She was the first publisher, and she's actually here tonight, as well as Brad Canham, our first editor. And I think what that speaks to is this has been a group project right from the beginning. We were founded during the pandemic. We met by Zoom for something like 9 months. And I didn't know most of the people who were involved when I first got started. And I'm glad to say that I know them now. It's been a major gift to me and to, I think, the city of Eden Prairie. Local news organizations are declining all over the country. And Eden Prairie, and particularly some of those of you who have bought ads during the political season or have supported us through payroll deductions, can be very proud of what we're doing. So thank you. And thank you to everyone who was involved in this whole process.
You really are welcome to leave Nancy's leading the way. Nice to have you back, Mayor.
Nancy has to stay.
Give everybody just a moment here.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, we'll move on with the approval of the agenda. And I just have one item to add under council member reports, just a brief mention of the intersection where the hit and run occurred, and maybe asking council a request to have staff come back with information, that item. Council, anything else that you wish to add? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda with your addition, with the addition from the mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. All right, council minutes, we can clump them both together. Any issues, problems, edits, comments that you wish to make about either the workshop or the council meeting held on August 12th? If not, is there a motion to approve them both?
Move to approve the following city council minutes. City council workshop held Tuesday, August 12, 2025. City council meeting held Tuesday, August 12, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. All right, moving on to the consent calendar. Again, for people a little bit new to our council meetings, these are important items, but ones that don't necessarily require further conversation, discussion. However, council, you can ask to have any item further explained, or you can even pull it for separate voting. Anybody have any questions about any of the items A through, I believe it's O, is this the corrected version, Rick?
Yes,
So it
yes,
is
it should
A-
be A through,
It is A through N.
yeah, A through N.
Okay. If you had read online, I think it was maybe A through M.
Yes.
But, okay.
Yeah, so
So any items, council, you wish to further discuss? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve items A to N on the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay, Mr. Getchell, we have 2 public hearings this evening.
We do, Mayor and Council. So the first public hearing is by Prairie Village by Hupp Holdings. It's a first reading of an ordinance for a planned district review with a few waivers on a half an acre. The applicant is requesting approval to construct approximately 1,100 square foot addition to an existing building at 7815 Terry Pine Court. This approximate half acre site is home to the Prairie Village Pet Hospital, which will be expanded and remodeled. The 2 waivers requested are for a parking setback and for impervious surface. The Plan Commission voted 8-0 to recommend approval to the City Council. The applicant is here to provide you with an overview of the project, and then the applicant and the staff can answer any questions that you may have. You would need to hold a public hearing, have a resolution for the PUD, and then direct staff to prepare a development agreement.
Please come forward. Give your name and address.
Good evening, Mayor Case, City Council. My name is Alan Hupp. My home address? 10431 Homeward Hills Road, Eden Prairie, our home for 32 years. Let's see if we get... So I'm pleased to be here this evening to discuss our project at the Prairie Village Pet Hospital. This hospital has been in operation full service for over 40 years on Terry Pine Court, as you might know that location. To be honest, not much has changed in 40 years at that pet clinic, structurally and with the property. It's pretty much like it was when it was built, and we feel it's really time to grow and kind of reimagine what the space might be. Before I go into the detail, I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit more. So I mentioned we've been, my family and I, in Eden Prairie for 32 years. Our 3 children went through all the schools here, 4 years apart, 12 years at Eden Prairie High School. Swedzinski was very happy when those guys moved on. We're very involved with the Helping Paws organization, raising service dogs. And I'll add that my wife is a master gardener, and she hosted one of the 10 tours this summer, and we had over 700 people visit our house on Homeward Hills Road. So it was a great privilege, and I don't know what happened to our slides. There we go. My background itself is a business professional. When I retired about 15 years ago, we got involved in real estate, and so we're an investor and developer in real estate right now. We purchased the pet clinic last summer, and we're excited about it and about the potential. I really wanted to point out, you can see here, one of the projects that I designed and was involved with is in St. Paul, and it's an infill project near the corner of Dale and Selby, if you happen to know that part of St. Paul. The lot had been vacant for 60 years, had been abandoned. I thought there was a better use, so we worked with the city over 3 years to get entitlement to build what became Cottages on Dale, which is a 5-unit infill project. Targeting the missing middle. We have solar, it's sustainable, and it was awarded the top project award by Finance and Commerce. And I point that out only in the sense that I take pride in this kind of work, in this development work, and if we take this on at the vet clinic, we want it to be done and done well. Real quick on the project, I think you might be familiar. City Manager Gutschall reviewed it. We're going to remodel the existing space, about 2,000 square feet, and add about 1,100 square foot of new space to it. The tenant for that property is a company called CareVet, and they're a national operator. They have about 200 clinics around the country. The original veterinarian at that clinic sold to CareVet about 4 years ago. I have found them to be a great company to work with. They're very supportive, very collaborative in doing it. That clinic is one of their top performers, and therefore they're pretty enthusiastic about seeing ways that it can grow. The space, you can get a visual here, we're adding about 50, we're increasing the space about 50%. It's really designed to increase the workflow, the surgical areas, the pet treatment areas, to make it more welcoming, to make it more efficient. The client's facing experience will be improved. and to continue to position the vet clinic as one of the leading clinics in Eden Prairie. And you may be aware that we've had a couple, for those of you with pets, which many of us have, there's been a couple new clinics move in. A couple new ones have moved to new spaces. We've had a couple new emergency clinics move in. And so it's a pretty competitive space, so obviously we need to get this one up to the standards. We're going to make sure that it is complementary to the existing use patterns in the comprehensive plan in the city. As I indicated, it's been a very collaborative process, including working with the fire department, making sure that we had a clear understanding of the fire suppression requirements for the city. Been working with planning, of course, and that has been, I just want to say, a very supportive group, a very proactive group in helping us kind of work through this and think through what the possibilities are. And I've been through this a few times before, and it isn't always that way in doing it. HUP Holdings, my company, will fund the development of this project, and in turn, CareVet will agree to a new long-term lease, the structure behind it. There will be 2 waivers required, one around permeability and one around parking setbacks, not parking spaces, but parking setbacks. So this visual, I think, is really telling. Yes, we'll need a waiver around permeability, but our lot, which is in the lower right-hand corner in blue, you can see a lot of green area. You can see a lot of grass in that northeast corner. And you look at that compared to the adjacent buildings, which are primarily parking lots, for the most part, with very little green. Even though we will require a waiver, we will still have much more green space to handle the groundwater intrusion than most of our neighbors. The other one is around the parking setback. And this basically says we're going to have to, when we expand the parking from 9 spots to 14, we are going to need to use some of the space that's been reserved for parking setback. And the new spaces are shown in green on this slide. And it's particularly the ones on the right or the east side that we're referring to that are going to have to go into the setback. It really doesn't impact anything, to be honest. It's really adjacent to the driveway into the property. It'll be a little bit closer to the right-of-way. But I think everybody is supportive that's a good use. So those are the 2. That's all I wanted to have to cover. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, you can always ask questions after we hold the public hearing. So stay near and we'll call you back up.
I just have one quick question.
Please.
I just noticed, looking at the minutes from the Planning Commission, that they recommended the retaining wall be replaced. Are you going to be replacing that?
We will.
Okay.
I pause, right, because that was under discussion and consideration. I think in the end we decided it would need to be. One other thing that was added as well is the rain garden is part of the kind of permeability strategy that also was kind of in this area of consideration. The city has come back and made that a requirement, and that is now part of our plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else for now? Okay. Thank you. So this is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to discuss this issue tonight before the council, please come forward. Seeing none. Council, I'm assuming you're comfortable going ahead and closing the public hearing and possibly making the motion, or you don't have to if you have other questions, but you can still ask questions after we make, if someone would make the motion, then close the public hearing and then the 3 bullet points as well.
I'll move to close the public hearing and adopt a resolution for a PUD concept review on 0.46 acres and approve the first reading of an ordinance for a PUD district review with waivers on 0.46 acres and direct staff to prepare a development agreement incorporating staff and commission recommendations and council conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Council, is there any further discussion, any questions you want to ask of the proponent or staff? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes unanimous 5-0. Welcome. Welcome to the expansion. Thank you so much. And when you purchased it within the last year or 2?
Here we go.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Mr. Getcho, we have an ordinance, first reading of an ordinance impacting the lower Minnesota River Watershed District.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mayor. We have a request by the Lower Minnesota Watershed District for a zoning district change. The Watershed District actually received a grant to do some stabilization work, something we're all looking forward to on the Minnesota River. And they received a grant, and they plan on doing some work. This is something that's been talked about for quite a while. And so they have agreed to purchase 4.2 acres of private property of 16 acres. And that involves a zoning district change of rural to parks and open space. So the request before you tonight is a rezoning, simple rezoning, and that requires a public hearing, and then the first reading of an ordinance to rezone 4.2 acres from rural to parks and open space. The administrator of the Lower Minnesota River Watershed District is here to provide you with a presentation on this proposal, and she and staff could answer any questions you have on the zoning proposal.
Great, welcome. Give your name and address.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Linda Loomis. I'm the outgoing administrator for the Lower Minnesota River Watershed District. Hopefully we'll get this project done by the end of the year so I can retire. This has been on our table since I started with the district in 2013, and it sort of preceded me. Our address of the watershed, we're at 112 East 5th Street in the city of Chaska. I happen to live in Golden Valley, so I'm here tonight making this rezoning request because we are spending tax dollars to stabilize this section of the river, and we're getting a grant from the state of Minnesota. We felt that the property should be in public ownerships for continued maintenance and the construction of the project. So that's why we purchased this section of property, and because it doesn't meet your zoning requirements for agricultural, because the lot size is too small, we're requesting the rezoning to park and recreation. So you've seen in your packets, I assume, the location of the river or of the project. It's what we call River Mile 19.6. I'm not sure how I work this. There we go. And this is the extent of the project area along the river. It's a bend in the river that if you look in the historical photos, you can see that it's continually migrated toward the east in the river, and there's been some obstructions placed in its way, which we are managing in a different manner so that the river can continue, but in the meantime, we want to stabilize this section of the river. And there we go. Whoop, I turned it off. There. You can see how much the river has migrated to the north towards the homes on Riverview Road. The red line that you see there is a previous outline of the riverbank. And there used to be a trail at the top of this bluff that has since collapsed because of the erosion the river is causing. And it doesn't really look like much from above, and so we had some drone footage taken, and you can see how the erosion in this area is not very pretty. And so we're gonna stabilize that area of the riverbank. Hopefully it will slow down the erosion there and allow the river to continue its move eastward. And I think that might be, oh, there's another view. You can see that orange netting. I think that was to keep people from falling over the edge because that's where the trail has collapsed. So we're bidding the project this week. We're hoping to award a bid in October and start construction in December. But in the meantime, we're hoping to get the area rezoned and the property subdivided.
Great. Council, any questions immediately? If not, you can always ask. Yes.
I've got a quick question that I'm not sure you have an answer to, judging by what you just told us, but is there any hope that actually this will fix the problem with the river, or given the curve in the river, ultimately the river will do what it wants?
We're hoping the river does what it wants and continues its eastward progression and leaves this area alone. That's why we're stabilizing it, to try to make the river go where it's supposed to now.
Excellent.
Yeah. That is where, I believe, Mr. Ellis, in 1987, I know you weren't here, but I'm sure you've heard the stories where the washout occurred. And actually, we had our sewer line blown out, our massive sewer line that leads from all homes in Eden Prairie across the river into Savage, and it blew out, and it was uncontrolled. I won't go into more detail. You can use your imagination for 6 weeks or something. It was a long time. And that problem got fixed, but the trail you speak of used to be a road, and it used to be a bus route. I have actually people my age that are friends that attended school in Eden Prairie in the early 60s, and that road was their bus route, but that has long washed out and became a walking trail, but then it collapsed into the river. So I'm thrilled that you are going to work at stabilizing this. For those historically minded as well, that's where the old original town of Hennepin that had been platted in 1854, 1855, 6 was, in that whole section right there, and went actually a little bit west, but went up the bluff. So it is a very historic area of Eden Prairie, and to see it, washed out is troubling, but it sounds like you've got, at least what you're planning, you've got it under control for what you'd like to have it do, so.
We hope. We've got it designed, and we've got the majority of the permits in place. We're still working on getting the city's drainage and grading and erosion control permits. We're hoping to get all of that done by the time we award the bid. We need a contractor to get, our construction stormwater permit done.
I'm sure we'll help all we can, because this is a tremendous advantage to the city and to our residents down south.
And we have done an archaeological review of the area too. That was required for the permit from the Corps of Engineers, so.
Yeah, Chief, there was a village in the 1830s and 40s right down to the east of that a little bit.
There was a lot going on in this area.
Where the Schlamp property there was.
Yeah.
By the way, there still is an ossuary there, a hill about 15 feet tall, and it's got a base, you know all this, but 20-some feet, and we believe 300 to 400 bodies are buried. It's a really rare First People Indigenous Indian ossuary, but it's very historical, that entire region, so. All right, thank you. We'll call you back up, I guess, if we have questions, but so this is a public hearing, and the public hearing is on changing the zoning from rural to parks and open space on just this 4 acres of land, so it can be used by the watershed district to stabilize the river. So anyone wishing to speak before the council tonight on this particular topic in the agenda? Seeing none, council, I think we're ready maybe to go right ahead and make the motion to close it and also make the full motion.
Close the public hearing and approve the first reading of an ordinance for a zoning district change from rural to parks and open spaces on 4.2 acres.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, passes. Thank you for, not sure where, oh, nope, there, I lost you. Thanks for all that you're doing in your group. We really appreciate our watershed districts, so appreciate you and your team that's going to be hopefully working to fix this. All right, I was in error. There's a third here. It's fairly rudimentary, I think, or perfunctory, but go ahead and introduce the CDBG CAPER evaluation report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a requirement of HUD. It's the first of 2 public hearings that we are required to hold as part of our performance evaluation report. Yeah, I think in this cover sheet alone, I think there's like 7 acronyms in here. So CDBG, HUD, annual financial
CAPER,
report, CAPER, you name it. There's quite a few. However, we have to hold a public hearing. That's the only action you need to take. Simply hold a public hearing, which is the first of 2 to allow the public to comment on the city's accomplishment toward meeting our 5-year goals that are defined in our consolidated plan, which is in the packet. Anyone could find that online or find that in the packet. We have to publicize that and publish it, so you could see quite a bit of detail in terms of many of the projects and processes we have and goals in terms of meeting a lot of our affordable housing in Eden Prairie and a lot of the programs that we have. So the 2024 program year began last July and it ended in June 30th of 2025, and the fifth grant period is 20 to 2024. So this is the first of 2 public hearings, but we just need to hold the public hearing this evening.
And the federal government's purpose is a big piece of accountability on the money that they send out to communities across the nation, that if a group or if a resident felt this council was not, or the city was not spending federal money the way that this person thinks it should, this would be their opportunity to keep us accountable from a federal government perspective. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's an assumption, but I would assume so. I would assume somewhere in HUD guidelines for all cities throughout the entire country, they want people to be able to have public comment on how each community is using their dollars, and this is the way they can collect comment. So I'm probably repeating what you said, but
That's
yes, that would be a good assumption.
So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address us on how we're doing on our CDB 2024 CDBG Community Development Block Grant spending, and give us feedback? Seeing none, council, all we're doing now is closing the public hearing. There's no other action that we need. Would someone make a motion?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, opposed. All right. Moving on to payment of claims. So this is, again, the list of all the different expenditures in a classic sense of the checks that we've cut since our last meeting. Council, any items of spending that you wish, it's pages and pages long, that caught your eye and you wish to find out more about? If not, is there a motion to approve the payment of claims?
Move to approve the payment of claim as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. All right. I think we're down to council member reports. All of us were shocked and saddened by the hit and run that occurred at one of the crosswalks that led into Pheasant Hills, is it? Pheasant Woods Park. Yep, I got it. Pheasant Woods Park on Mitchell Road. And of course, with a lot of press coverage on that incident, some residents out on Nextdoor and other social media raised the concern that maybe this was a problematic intersection, or maybe the city should be doing something about this particular intersection. But I think, like, if you're like me, and I'm sure you are, or we're thinking, well, how many crosswalks do we have in the city, and do we have any other problematic intersections? And as our staff, which I found out they are acutely aware and have been studying and have all kinds of data, this is, even though the tragic nature of this always catches us by surprise, the idea of what's going on at any of our crosswalks does not catch us by surprise, because our public works staff is amazingly organized and plotting out. We have 380 crosswalks, I think, in the city. And so I thought I would ask right now, if it's okay with all of you, that Mr. Ellis would simply give a couple comments about this incident, or maybe this particular intersection, but then I think, if it's okay with you, that the 5 of us could ask him to come back, because I'm assuming he's not well, he probably is prepared, it's all in his head, but it would be better to give him a little heads up, to have him come back to our next meeting with a brief report on all of our crosswalks across the city, and what's the criteria, and when are there some that are more concerning, and all that. Just give us a lot of information and feedback so we're better prepared to talk to our residents. I think if that's okay with all of you. But Mr. Ellis, if you want to just give a couple brief comments, just really connected right to this incident and right to this intersection.
Yep, certainly. So, Mayor Kay, City Council, you're right, we do have 388 marked crosswalks in Eden Prairie. And we have about 5,200 total intersections in Eden Prairie. So, you know, the question of, well, when do we decide what type of treatments to use at intersections when we get concerns, when we as staff have concerns? And to answer that question, it really started in 2023 when this city council adopted our first ever pedestrian guideline treatments. This was something that not many cities have, but we felt that there was enough requests from the public that we needed to have a more technical, data-driven response to when we do certain type of treatments and for what reason. So in 2023, the city council did adopt those standards. And those standards look at things like vehicle speeds, vehicle volumes, pedestrian volumes, the age of pedestrians. If a child is crossing, we count that as twice. If it's a disabled person, we count that as 2 pedestrians. If it's an elderly individual, we count them twice. So it's age specific. It's also looking at whether the crossing serves a school, a park, a transit station, because we place a higher priority on those. And also looks at the number of lanes that a pedestrian is trying to cross to get from one side of the street to the other. Now, these standards were borrowed, I'll be honest, from the city of Boulder. Boulder, Colorado, for the last 20 years, has been on the leading edge of progressive treatment of pedestrian crossings. And they've done a lot of studying, they've done a lot of research on this. Most cities that are trying to follow some type of systematic guidelines or policy on when to use certain treatments follows Boulder. In fact, if you were to look at the city of Edina, they've got almost the exact same policy. We've borrowed it from the city of Boulder. And there's a handful of other cities in the state of Minnesota that have also done that. So that's where a lot of our standards have come from. We've tried to tailor them unique to our city because we are a little bit different. I do want to point out that right now we are in the process of collecting new data for this intersection at Mitchell and Chestnut, because it's been 3 years since we've evaluated it last. So we want to see if anything's changed. So we're out collecting some PED data, some vehicle data, and we should have that by the end of the day, the end of the week, to maybe provide a future update to the city council. But I will say that when we did this last evaluation in 2022, and we ran it through what are our standards today, it would tell us, based on the speed of traffic out there, the posted speed limit, the number of pedestrian crossings, all of those things that I mentioned, that the appropriate treatment would be a marked crosswalk with the roadside warning signs for the pedestrian and the in-road stop for pedestrian and crosswalk signs. Now, all of those things are out there today, and they've been out there. I think that crosswalk has been marked at least since 2020. It's as far back in the aerials as I can see it. The in-road stop for pedestrian and crosswalk signs, that's something that we started implementing 4, 5, 6 years ago. So that would be the newest feature that is being employed out there currently. When we look at our standards, or Edina standards, or Boulder standards, because they're really all the same, and we get asked, well, why don't we do an RRFB, the rectangular rapid flashing beacon? Why isn't that the treatment that we're using here? And I would say that based on our current guidelines, to do that, the speed would need to be posted at 40 to 45 miles per hour. We'd need to have at least 3 lanes versus the 2 lanes we have now, and it's posted a 30 mile per hour speed limit. Or we would need to almost double the volume of traffic. We currently, based on our last count from 2022, had 6,700 vehicles per day. That would need to go up to 12,000. Those are the types of criteria that you begin to recommend the next step of treatment, which would be the RRFB. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we weren't there. I'm fairly confident we're probably not going to be there now, but we're going to evaluate it nonetheless. But I did want to point out that there might be another option forward if the council was interested in seeing more of these RRFBs being installed for a location like this. And that option might be that we give new credence to the roadway classification. This roadway is a major collector. And we could assign some type of points to roads that have that higher functional classification, placing more criteria on that, or higher criteria for the volume of traffic. And that would result in more RRFBs now meeting the guidelines. Now, how many? I don't know. We would need some time to evaluate this, but it could mean 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 new intersections that today do not meet the criteria for an RRFB would then meet that. It would be warranted. So I'd like to spend some time to find out where is that cutoff? Where should we really be looking at an RRFB if we're not happy with where that criteria is today? Because an RFB on average will cost about $40,000. So if we're all of a sudden adding 50 new intersections, that would introduce a need of maybe $1.5 million to install all those RFBs. So I want to be careful in what we would come back as a recommendation to the council if you were so inclined to take a new, fresh look at that. In the meantime, understanding that there is a lot of emphasis being placed right now for an immediate change to that intersection, I think what we can do is, I brought an example of it. This is just a bright sign, fluorescent yellow, high retroreflectivity sheeting material that can go on the post that holds the current signs that are out there today with the warning arrow signs down announcing that this is a pedestrian crossing. So we've ordered these, we can have these installed. It will help with the daytime and nighttime visibility of that crosswalk, which is what we're hearing is the visibility is maybe lacking. We could also add a northbound direction advanced warning sign that's announcing that ahead there is a crosswalk, and that works in tandem with at the crosswalk, the arrow sign saying this is where the crosswalk is. So we can work to get that done now while we're taking time to maybe reevaluate, come back to council with some options for your consideration and decide what do we want to do maybe long-term with our RFBs. Do we want to lower the standard for the implementation of these and to what degree? So that's really the report that I have for you today and announcing some of the changes that we can make immediately. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Council, any questions or comments?
Sure. I have a question. When you talk about changing the criteria for the RRFPs, got that right? Could you actually, would you include like at certain intersections, the number of accidents and the types of accidents that have occurred?
Yes, that we could certainly add that as a criterion. Yes, we could. That's currently not in there now, but we could add that.
I got a question if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Ellis, question I got, could you hold up that poll again? Yeah.
Yes.
Now, the question I got was the concern was the night drive in there. Okay. Now, in your opinion, will that greatly increase the visibility at night? Or minimally, I'm not putting you on, I'm not trying to put you on a spot.
Yeah, the feedback that we've received, we've installed these on always stop signs. When we've had complaints that people are not seeing the stop sign, they're blowing through the stop sign. So we have added this and we've received positive feedback from the people who have called in to complain about that. So I do believe they're effective. I think when you add up the total square footage of additional reflective material, you might be increasing it by 10, 15, 20%. So I think they can be effective, yes.
Sounds like a good improvement.
Agreed.
Well, one of my hopes you completely fulfilled, and that is just to show again that our city staff, led by you in terms of public works, have been and are fully knowledgeable and working constantly for all of our roadway intersections and crosswalks to be as up to date and knowledgeable and helpful in terms of the safety of our residents. So thank you. I mean, you really know what you're doing. And again, we're always caught by surprise when a tragic accident occurs. But in terms of this intersection rising to a level that we've been watching it never has. I mean, it's only the second accident in 6 years. And at the end of the day, this accident primarily resulted from someone that we don't know the speed, but they did a hit and run and took off, and they're culpable for that. That's really, that could happen anywhere, but I mean, that's nothing directly related based on historical data to this intersection. But so thank you for that, and whatever you can bring back to us, that would be great. And I just want to point out to our residents too that I know that you're not in any way saying that all 388 crosswalks would even someday get these blinking light $40,000 fixtures, but if they did, That's 15.5 million, and the next item, we're going to ready to approve a $66 million budget. You can imagine what a $15 million hole it would punch into that budget if we were to do something like that. So thus, back to you, and it has to meet criteria. It has to be a situation that it makes sense that these 5 or these 7 or these 10 rise to that level. And just, I believe that it's accurate that the one on the most easterly side on Anderson Lakes Parkway, closest to 169, people have complained about that for years because you're coming around that bend and it's blind and there's a crosswalk there. And we are, I believe, putting one of these RRFPs there because it rose to, that's a very busy intersection, it's a blind intersection, we probably have historical track record data. I mean, so we're doing this to our taxpayers, we're doing this in the most reasonable and faithful to our taxpayers' way, even at the same time we try to make our city as safe as possible as we can. And that's why we have phenomenal staff, so thank you. Thank your department as well. Council, are you okay with that? Then in the next meeting, Mr. Ellis will come back with additional data about the whole system and what that might look like, and maybe even some of these crosswalks that are determined to rise to the level that they need an RRFP.
Yeah, I want to say, yes, I do. I want to, double your confidence in your staff, keeping our city safe and finding what needs to be done. We've known for a long time that we have an excellent staff, and we have the greatest confidence in you.
Totally. All right, Mr. Getchell, we are now down to the report of city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, our last major action item is adopting a resolution approving the preliminary tax levy and budget. As you remember, first item of the evening was preliminary levy and budget for HRA. So now we're to that point where we're considering the city's budget and levy. I have a brief presentation to go through. Many council members, the council members have seen many of these slides because we covered this throughout the summer. But as we get toward the end of the year, there'll be a much more robust presentation at the end of the year, but as you set your ceiling, as you call it, your preliminary levy, this would be a good time to go through some of the work that you've done already. Your process to date, as we discuss, it's a 2-year process, and the 2-year budget process actually began last winter. It begins with departments putting together citywide work plans. All 30 plus divisions of all 6 departments put work plans together. And as the council begins to assemble their strategic goals, and we get together to discuss the quality of life survey results that we receive every 2 years, the budget process begins to take hold. We also get results from our auditors from our prior year and our financial results. And then in the spring, all the managers and directors put their budgets together, and the council receives first consideration of that in the summer months. And that brings us to the September date. We actually have to the end of the month to set the preliminary levy to send to the county. There are some goals that we have for this 2-year budget, and they're similar to what we have in previous years. And they may seem simple, but they're very important. And I'm going to allude to that when you see the slide on the quality of life survey. And that is how we maintain and continue to maintain a high quality level of city everyday services for our residents at a reasonable tax impact. It's a simple sentence, but there's a lot that goes into that. Secondly, when you drill down into the financial position of the city, it's very important for us to have a balanced budget, to have a fund balance, many different fund balance policies to conservatively estimate our revenues and our expenditures, and also to review all our fees annually and to have conservative and comprehensive long-range planning. This is a hard slide to see in a presentation, and there's a nice video that we have online, and we played at the workshop, and we're going to play in December. But what it says is in our survey that our residents took that's statistically significant, we rank near the top in, I think there's 20 different areas of regular everyday city services in the top 2 or 3. And there are some areas of city services we're in the top 5 nationally. When I say city services, we're talking about police services, fire services, street plowing services, park maintenance services, street repair services, the ability to get around our city, the ability to feel safe in our city, some of the top ratings in the state and nation. And we also had some key findings that our survey company provided for us. The point being that the city council directed the city staff to bring back a budget that said basically keep it that way. And what I said earlier, at a reasonable tax impact. There are some highlights in the budget that I just want to quickly go over, department by department. Citywide, we want to be able to continue to enhance our city events and have increased city engagement, invest in our facilities, in our technology. In Parks and Recreation, we want to continue to expand some of the contracts we have in Parks and Natural Resources. And you're going to see this when I go through some of the line item chart, that we were able to save quite a bit of money in our street maintenance costs by removing some of those costs from the general fund. We continue to invest in sustainability. We're planning for our next comprehensive plan process and community development. We continue to focus on housing, affordable housing, housing policies, housing programs. We are entering in 2026 another year of elections, so the administration budget fluctuates year to year because every other year is an election year. Our focus in the police department is to maintain our staffing, enhance our recruitment and training. And you know very well what our focus has been in the fire department with our enhanced and updated staffing model. We've discussed that at length. Overall, the plan is to be fiscally prudent, budget conscious, and to maintain service levels. And there are many examples that I have given and will give at future meetings, how we're actually saving money in our budget and providing savings and efficiencies, but also providing service at a high level. In terms of our revenue budget, and this is broken down into the different program areas, and you'll see later on that the proposed tax levy portion of the overall revenue budget is under 6%. But if you look at the total revenue that the city's looking at bringing in the general fund, it makes up about the largest portion of our revenue. It's about 75% of our revenue, but it's just one line item in the revenue. We also have obviously license and permit revenue. We have intergovernmental revenue. We don't actually have a lot of intergovernmental revenue. When you look at a $63 million revenue budget and your intergovernmental revenue or sources of revenue outside the city from other governments is, $2.5 million. That's not a lot because we do not get LGA, but actually those are grants. So our staff has done a good job of getting grants. A lot of that has to do with grants. In the area of charges for services, that's actually seeing an increase in revenue from our community center, so that's a good thing. Investment income, it's not a large amount of money, it's a large percent because we're actually seeing positive investment income with interest rates, so there's a fluctuation there with the revenue budget. With the expenditure budget, a lot of different amounts in the department. So I mentioned the reason the administration budget is above 5% this year and is barely above 2% proposed in 2027 is because of the elections. The community development budget is actually flat this year because there are a few positions and efficiencies that we have found positions not being filled immediately and some efficiencies that we're able to have this year. The police and fire budget I mentioned, the fire budget with the increased staffing that they're doing, a lot of the police expenditure increases are due to the increased operating costs that we are going to have with the remodel, and I'll get to the debt in a little bit. The public works budget for next year in the general fund is actually decreasing. So again, this pointing out here, if you think about our budget, it shows you that we examine every line item. You don't look at each department and say, add 2%, add 2.5%, add 3%. Every line item is unique and different. Some areas actually decrease quite a bit. And Parks and Recreation is pretty stable there at 3.9%. I think I pointed out, we're not saying that this is a public safety budget, an investment in public safety, but I do note that if you took out public safety, the overall budget would only be increasing about 2%. So the majority of the increase is due to public safety, and obviously that is a majority of where the city's general fund spending is, as that obviously is a 24/7 operation. In terms of the property tax impacts, when we move from the revenue and expenditure budget into property tax impacts, and again, we'll talk, we will have a lot more data at the end of the year as people begin to receive their tax statements and we know where these final numbers are going to land. But we have a pretty good idea in early September where some of these tax capacity and tax rate numbers are going to land. But we continue to see an increase in the city's market value. I mean, if you look at just in a 4-year period of time, the tax capacity, which is a function of the city's market value multiplied by all the state classification rates, continues to increase. And the rate of taxation, and I'm going to show comparisons to other cities in a little bit, continues to be very flat. In fact, if you look back 4 years ago, the city's tax rate is almost identical to what it was 4 years ago. And the tax levy is just over $50 million. In terms of the budget changes, what changes from 2026 from 2025, you can see that the majority of the changes are in employee wages and benefits, and that makes sense because we are a person-driven organization. The majority of the work we do is service-driven and it's people-driven. There's actually, in certain areas, a decrease in some of our costs, such as utility costs. So we are seeing some savings in utility costs in certain areas for 2026. When you get into the levy itself and the budget, we're looking, and this is where this is actually better news than what the city council saw at a workshop in the summer. We're proposing a levy at 5.6%. After you factor in the debt levy and the capital or the fiscal disparities. When I talked about the police and city hall remodel, that's where the almost $500,000 debt levy for next year comes in. That's a 20% increase for next year. And as you know, we've been planning this for almost 10 years. Even though we have a large amount of other debt coming off, this was a large enough project where we're still seeing a pretty big bump in 26. And then from 27 on, you're going to see a debt levy, as you can see in 27, that is, 3.5 or lower. So this is the only year that you're going to see that large debt bump. And I would not even pay attention to the proposed levy for next year because that assumes a capital improvement levy that we may not have. So if we don't need to do a capital improvement levy next year, that will be well under 6%, but that's just an assumption for 27. But the debt levy is pretty accurate. So again, it's pretty impressive that we are planning for a 20% increase in the debt levy and we're still able to have a 5.6% proposed levy this year for 26. Last year, it was 5.8. And in terms of what we know other cities are doing, we seem to be, of comparable cities, the lowest. And the average seems to be running at about 8.5%. We do not, as you know, build our levy or budget around what anybody else is doing. We ask around after we put our numbers together. You know that this is the ceiling. So many of these cities may lower their number. So when I come back in December, they still may lower their number because those cities have meetings. But I do know, anecdotally, some cities might say, we're at 9 right now. We hope to be at, 8 or 7. I don't know if they're going to be down to 5.6, but that's anecdotally what I hear. In terms of a 10-year history, I think comparably, the value proposition is pretty good here in terms of our 10-year history of our levies. And in terms of our tax rate, again, I always say with tax rate, and I'll show many different examples in December, take any value of any home in any of these cities, take any value of any home, multiply it by the percent you see on the chart. And that's the tax that you get. So the rate is a very important determinant of the city tax. And we are 4th lowest of all cities in Hennepin County above 10,000 population. And that is a 25 tax rate. Obviously, we don't know the 26 tax rate. Couple more
Rick,
slides.
go back that just a second. I just want to point out that often, you've heard me say this, but I think you all have too, that if you take your home and pick it up and go plop it in another city, now there's a school district, I mean, all kinds of other factors, but just the municipal city tax, all cities on this chart right here, except Edina, Maple Grove, and Plymouth, you'll pay more.
Correct. And the other thing I say, Mayor, too, is these are all in Hennepin County, so you're all going to pay the Hennepin County tax, because someone might come and say, they might pick a city in or in Carver County or Scott County, and then I have to figure out what is the county tax, but the county tax here is the same. You're right, school district is different, but that's correct. You are correct. And then a couple more slides related to what we see the impact coming up, and I think a lot of people know this is coming because this has been in the newspaper, and I've seen a couple TV news stories on this as well. Our estimated market value is increasing, and that's a positive thing. The median valued home in our city continues to increase. In less than 10 years, the median valued home in Eden Prairie has gone from just over $350,000 to well over $550,000. Again, that's an asset. I mean, if you had a investment portfolio and it's grown, I don't know, what is that? It's 50, 60% or something in a 10-year period, that's a positive thing. However, what's happening right now, at least what everyone in the not only Twin Cities, but the 7-county metro area is going to see is that the burden of the taxation, not just in Eden Prairie, but throughout the metro area, may fall a little bit more on residential property. And that is mainly going to be, and this is the case of Eden Prairie, but it's going to be everywhere, and that is because mainly commercial property values have fallen. So this chart shows you the makeup of the different classes of property in Eden Prairie. So blue is residential. Most of our property value is in residential. That orange-ish is commercial, and then apartments are the lower one. For the first time in the history of Eden Prairie, the value of residential property is highest, or the tax capacity is highest, because the value of commercial property is lower. So, and I think the mayor, you've said this, regardless of what our levy is, you have a certain pie, and however you cut that pie, residential property taxpayers are going to have to pay more of their share of the pie. Almost 2% jump in tax capacity for residential may not be a lot, but I think it's, and I should have written the number down, but it's like $30 million or something in residential value. It's a lot of value in terms of property. So that being said, that $558,000 home, even though the levy may be going up, 5.5%, that median valued home is going to have to pay $142 more, or a little over 8%. Actually, the good news here is that number that you were shown this summer was closer to 10, so it's come down. But look at the apartment and commercial property. I'm sure the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of business properties are looking at drops of 3.5% to 4%, and apartment properties are flat. So this is happening everywhere. As I wrap up, and I do want to wrap up, the next piece of the process following preliminary levy approval is notices would be mailed out once the council sets the preliminary levy by the end of September. In early November, you have another workshop where you're going to continue to discuss the budget and go through all your enterprise funds, including utility operations. And then in that truth and taxation notice, December 2nd, you're setting as the public meeting and the potential final adoption of the 2026 budget. And I can certainly answer any questions that you have related to this. But again, this is something that you've been discussing for the past several months.
Thank you. Very thorough. And again, council, this evening, we're just setting the maximum, the ceiling. It can always come down. Typically in the past, we haven't. Our staff does a phenomenal job of bringing really accurate numbers based on 2 years of work in actuality to this. And Mr. Getchell, I know at our workshops, we've seen numbers like this. I think it might be a good thing if at our December meeting, you also had numbers and gave us numbers of what would it look like if our budget went up 0. Well, taxes based on that last slide where it showed an 8% would still, whatever it is, go up 3 or 4. And yet it would decimate the services that people have come to so appreciate in Eden Prairie. A 0% budget increase, likely, not to sound the big alarm, but would result in a cut in police officers, fire department personnel, possibly road plowing, road maintenance. I know it's from different fund, but I mean, it would impact negatively our quality of life, which is exactly what we moved in, and our taxes would still go up. And that's the piece. I mean, we are doing our really best, and thank you, staff, at being as responsible as we can be. And I think the proof is in the pudding. And I'm not disparaging other cities at all, because every city has a unique set of circumstances. They might be building a community center. Minnetonka's has 4 brand new fire department buildings on the docket, I believe, Chief, over the next several years. So they just have issues we don't have. And that's creating, in many cases, higher taxes for their residents. But we are very well managed over the last 30, 40 years, and it's resulting in some of the lowest levy increases relative to our neighbors. And again, it's not a competition, but we want to be responsible, and I believe that we are. Council, again, we've been at this, you've seen these numbers multiple times. We've been at this for 2 years. We've had, I don't even know the 2 years of meetings, but I'm guessing it's 7, 8, or 9 that we've had on the budget and the levy. Any questions or comments you want to make additionally this evening?
Yeah, I just sort of tag on what you just said. I'm very proud of our personnel and our tax rates that we've been able to maintain in Eden Prairie, plus the quality of our services and things like our roads and everything else that go along with everybody's quality of life in town. It's not an easy thing to do, to get that and keep it going. It wasn't always this way. I believe our current set of staff has made this happen and then continue on. So you have my large thanks, and also will appreciate your coming couple months of work to finish it off.
Council, anything else? And just one more comment to say that we as a council use our own minds, our own perceptions, our own experiences to help guide the city, but we take a lot of input from our residents, and we take it in two fairly large ways. One is an every other year survey, very detailed, statistically significant, which specifically asks questions about, do you perceive high value out of the taxes you pay? And we have returns of over 90% of our residents in a statistically significant survey saying, yes, if we were getting 60 or 70% back, or certain areas were like, no, we don't want money spent there, we would respond to that. That's why we do that survey. And the second, I feel very large way that we get feedback from our residents are through elections. And we do serve, or we place our names, in nomination. We run every 4 years, and every 2 years, there's some of us up. So in 2026, 3 of our positions are up. And if we choose to run again, that will be giving our residents an opportunity to say, no, I don't like the direction you all have been going, or yes, we love Eden Prairie. We like the direction it's been going. So that's feedback we get as well. And therefore, then we set a direction to staff, go out and fund the level of quality that our residents have sent us here to make sure happens. And that's how that whole process over time works. And I think it's been like that for 50, 60 years of councils and mayors that have built out this city today to be one of the stellar examples, I think, in the region of a city that's well-run, well-managed, appropriate taxes and levies. And again, I don't think that came by accident. So, all right, I do need a motion then, 4 bullet points to certify the property tax levy, but also the HRA tax levy as part of this resolution.
Move to adopt the resolution to certify the proposed 2026 property tax levy to be $52,844,814 and set December 2nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. as the meeting which will include discussion of the budget and provide for public comment, and accept the proposed 2026 budget of $66,847,061 and consent approve the HRA tax levy of $230,000.
All right, is there a second?
Second, sorry.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0 unanimous. Mr. Getchell and council, is there anything else to come before the council this evening? Okay, hearing none then, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the city council meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.